Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Spill the Beans. I am Tim Bratz. Today, we're gonna finish up part 2 of my conversation with Mike Wingard. He's a Cleveland guy, moved down to South Carolina, and operates service businesses and flips companies. So just like we flip real estate and buy and hold apartment buildings, he flips businesses and buys and holds businesses. So he laid a ton of insights on us. If you haven't seen episode 1, you gotta go and watch that. And today we're gonna dive into part 2 and all the conversations, some really, really good stuff. Hope you guys get a ton of value out of it. If you do, please share this, and I'd love to hear your comments below of what your biggest takeaway is. So check it out. All right, so we're gonna take a quick coffee break, top off, coming back. I like this conversation, right? I like where this is going. I just think there's so many parallels between real estate and with businesses and flipping businesses.
Yep.
And the question becomes like, can I take a business that's doing a few $100,000 or whatever, and essentially buy in at $500,000?
Yep.
And make it worth $5 million in 5 years. Can't really take an apartment building for $500,000 and make it worth $5 million in 5 years.
It's so funny that you say that, dude.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's a guy in our group that actually did that. He bought a company for $600,000, and they did $4.2 million this past year. And so the company when he bought it was doing $1 million at a 4% net. Then they went from that to 1.2, but at a higher profit margin, then 2.4 and at a higher, like a 12% net. Now they're at like 4.2 at a 15% net.
Right. And
so it is possible.
So it's definitely possible, but you couldn't do that with like an apartment building, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot more difficult to do that with an apartment building,
Yeah.
to have a 10x value proposition. Like there's ways that you can substantially increase the value, obviously, but to make that big of a leap in value, especially in a short time frame, much more difficult to do. Now, there's obviously tax benefits for real estate.
Yeah.
It's a tangible business. You're not as reliant upon personnel performance.
Yeah.
Not personal, but personnel.
Yeah.
Right? You actually have a tangible asset. You got more tax breaks, all this other stuff. But I like the idea of doing both, right?
Yeah.
I've been thinking about the idea of doing both for a long time. But I know what I'm good at. I'm staying in my lane.
That's
I'm just
the thing.
focused on
this,
and I want businesses that align, that are vertically integrated with my real estate business. You know, So that's why my coaching business allows me to build a business that does $4 or $5 million a year in revenue.
Yeah.
I could sell it for probably a 3x multiple of that, but it aligns with my real estate.
Yeah.
So it's part of. It's not moving multiple steps away from my core competency. But coming back, all right. So you're looking at a business. Have you ever looked at like what could you do to roll up multiple businesses in that industry? Meaning, Andrew Carnegie would go around and buy multiple steel mills.
Yep.
And create a monopoly in that industry, right?
Yep.
John D. Rockefeller went around and just bought up all the different oil companies.
Yep.
And he owned 98% of the market
Yep.
of all oil refining in the entire United States in the late 1800s. Not saying we're going to create a monopoly, but there's efficiencies when you take multiple businesses. You don't need a bookkeeper here, a bookkeeper here, a bookkeeper here, a bookkeeper here, right?
Yeah.
You don't need a CPA here, CPA here, CPA. You could take 4 businesses, roll them all up, have 1 or 2 CPA, or 1 CPA, 2 bookkeepers to handle everything, right?
Yeah.
You need 1 marketing budget now instead of 4 marketing budgets,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of efficiencies by taking multiple businesses and then bringing them all up under 1 brand.
Yep.
What are the benefits and what are the disadvantages or the hoops, kind of the hurdles that you have to work through to do that?
So I've never personally done what you were just talking about, but I kind of have with our coaching program. So like I just took a phone call from the CPA that's in our group, and we have people that specialize in marketing and operations, and so that's where I would say like the education company for me is kind of essentially how I do that, because I say, look, like this guy knows what our values are and what we believe in. Just use him for your CPA and all that kind of stuff. But what you could also do, those are the best companies to add value to. We talk about the value add on the real estate side. Well, for you, that's an incredible amount of value. It's to go to somebody who's a young hustler that wants to start their own business. They don't care what it is, like we did with our moving company. They're like, I just want to start a business, right? And I'm like, look, I can show you how to get the work. And for you, you can actually give them the work, right? So you can get a percentage of that. So you can kind of create a monopoly because you have all the connections and support, and you control the deal flow, right? So that's what if I was you, that's what I would do.
Well, I think there's, meaning the ancillary businesses to real estate.
Yep.
Right, like the CPA.
Vertically integrate, like you were saying, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I am really more focused. Like we just brought construction in-house.
Yep.
So now we got a crew of about 25 laborers. We control construction along with a project manager who goes around, travels around the Southeast from project to project, moves our own laborer to and from each project, organizes it all. And now we're not subject to other people's pricing, wages going like this, like everything's standardized on that front.
Yeah.
Asset management. We just brought asset management, kind of asset property management. We're still using third-party management, but we're doing more in-house management stuff too. And we're considering bringing a lot of that in-house or partnering with the property manager in some capacity to reduce our property management and have more control and authority in that space.
Yeah.
So now we got in-house management, in-house construction. You know, there's a lot of, we're bringing on in-house, potentially bringing on in-house management software as well, developing that. Lead generation, marketing, like all that stuff starting to come in-house. And early on in business, I wanted all that stuff, and then I realized, holy shit, each one of its own different business, and I don't have a team to run each one of them. I can't do that. Let me just focus on investing. And we'll use third-party brokers, we'll use third-party management, we'll use third-party, construction, and then we grew to a point where now it's like, okay, now it makes sense to bring it all in-house and vertically integrate. So that's really where our focus is right now. We started doing all this stuff over the past about 90 days. As we've been trimming down our portfolio of the stuff we don't want, really focus on the stuff that we do want, and continuing to grow in that capacity. And I agree. The one thing I haven't done is there's a lot of vendors, right? I've been through a lot of shitty CPAs in order to find a good one. I've been through a lot of bad mortgage brokers in order to find a good one. Been through a lot of bad insurance agents in order to find a good one. And I don't get anything from any of those people who are in legacy family, like in the mastermind, right? And I put them on stages, and they're always up. And I could get affiliate commissions from all these people, and they could give me a kickback. But dude, that's not why I bring them. I bring them because I truly believe they're the best in the business, and I want other people to be able to expedite their success and work with the best in the business. And my only thing is hey dude, if I'm gonna send you business, just be part of my mastermind, be part of my community, right? So I can make a lot more money in affiliate commissions by making rips on, Chris Litzler. He takes down a $10 million loan on a deal. He makes a 1% rip on it. That's $100,000. I can say, hey man, kick me 25% of that. That's 25 G's. And you keep the rest, right? That's one deal, and he does $300 million a year. I don't know how much of it's my group or whatever, but I could totally go to him and say, hey, I want to make a lot more money. But no, I'm like, dude, it's $1,000 a month to be part of the group, and that's it. And that way I can go to my the other members of the group and be like, I don't get anything, right? And it creates more value. Now they're not like, I wonder what's in it for Tim, or I like having that as the conversation instead of Bratz is just pushing Litzler because he's making a bunch of. No, I'm not. I don't get paid a dime. Does Litzler do me a favor and underwrite some extra deals for us that we don't move on? Yeah, absolutely he does. Or just gives us some VIP treatment, takes us out to dinner once in a while. But I don't get anything by promoting him or by promoting Drew McConaughey, who's my commercial insurance broker, right? They don't give me anything. They're just part of our group. So I definitely think that there's value to be seen in a lot of those different kinds of things. I think a smart business probably would do that, right? I just think for the just the culture and stuff that I've built, it's a very transparent type of a culture of dude, I want value. But if I'm in another business, dude, and there's other ways to generate revenue, I think you'd be silly not to do that, right? I'll give you an example. One of the other things that we're looking at doing is, I got 4,000 tenants. 4,000 tenants, who are recurring customers.
Yep.
And I know which one of them have pets and which ones don't.
Yep.
I got a buddy who's got an e-commerce pet company. I could say, hey, give me your stuff. Let me do an affiliate marketing thing to all my tenants for your pet food or your, I don't know, pet accessories or whatever the hell he's selling.
Yep.
And I can push it out to all my tenants
Yep.
who have pets. He makes a sale, and then he gives me a kickback for that, right? Like that's a way to generate revenue on an apartment building where everybody else is only looking at rental revenue. I'm looking at rental revenue, parking revenue, storage revenue. Maybe there's like I'm bringing a cleaning company, right? And they clean the units for $75 per cleaning, and does two things. One, you might give me a deal at $50, kick me a 25% rip on it. It's a value add to the tenant. And then at the same time, I know that unit's clean, and you're kind of like the eyeballs in the unit, making sure that there's not 15 people staying in a one-bedroom apartment, or that there's food and shit all over the ground and bringing rats and bugs and all that other stuff, right? So like I know the unit's clean, it kind of like eyeballs to make sure that everything's compliant in the unit, nothing's busted, nothing's broken, nothing's silly or goofy or whatever. And then at the same time, it's a revenue generator for me. Like how many other businesses could you partner with? And on the real estate side, dude, like that's I think where our added value is like we think outside of just rental revenue. We think of like how many other ways can we generate more revenue with this apartment building, and kind of look at it more like a business instead of just a rental property.
You just got to capitalize on it.
That's
it's already there, And
dude, and it's easy, man. It's easy to create affiliates with other e-commerce businesses that can offer products or services to your clients. You know?
And what it goes back to
tenants
is what you were just saying about the highest and best use, right? You're like, I'm the social media guy. I'm the connector. I'm the bringing people together kind of person, right? So like capitalize on that. And you're not doing it in a way that's like, oh, he's just trying to make money or whatever. You're actually helping people. You're providing an opportunity for them by leveraging what you've already built up. So, and I struggle with that too in my group, because there's a lot of business that gets exchanged in my group from, other people who build websites, because I don't build websites, Drake, who's a shout out to Drake Van Hall, our CPA, but he picks up a lot of business from our group, like 6 figures a year in business. And I'm just like, you know what?
Well, say, dude, is he a member of your mastermind?
Yeah.
Good. He should be a paying member of the mastermind.
Yeah.
And I think if they're a paying member of the mastermind, you also don't have I don't think it's right for them to be a paying member of the mastermind and expect additional revenue from them. Like you're the owner, the founder of the mastermind, the organizer of the mastermind. Your job is to connect people, right? Not to just have your hands in every fucking cookie jar that you can possibly find.
Exactly.
I think it creates a better just community feel, vibe, and it'll create a lot more longevity of you just leading with value. Let me give you all the best components of people that I've found. And that's what I've done, dude. I'm just like, here's the best person for this, here's the best person for that, here's the best for this. But I'm like, hey guys, I'm gonna kick you guys a ton of business, like, Scott Hannes, right? His business has taken off because he works with a lot of people. I don't get a dime from Scott. He's a member of my mastermind. I ask him to contribute and hop on a phone call every Thursday, provide value, and then he places a couple people for me per year. And he'll hire a couple of people for me every year, and he doesn't charge me a fee, right? But he's also got a membership to the mastermind. So it's like, it's a good value proposition. I think that's a good way of doing it, but not getting paid for, selling other mastermind members. I just feel like,
and don't.
I don't know how we got on this tangent.
No, you're good. But here's what I want to tell you, Tim, is like, don't forget what caused you to be as successful as you are right now. Like, for those of you guys that aren't in the mastermind, like, might want to do it, right?
Gotta be in it. Like, it is. We were talking offline. To one of your students, and essentially, there are no fast tracks to success other than being in a mastermind. You're able to capitalize on somebody else's relationship capital, right? A relationship you built with a CPA. It's taken you 15 years to build that relationship and go through a bunch of bad ones in order to find the great one. And somebody who knows their stuff inside and out. How many CPAs would he have to go through in order to see that, right? Private money lenders, other operators, other joint venture partners, all these different resources that's taken you 15 years to develop those relationships. You're like, hey, you need to meet him because he's a great guy. You need to meet her because she's solid at what she does. You connect these two people together, and it expedites his success by 15 years. People don't understand and conceptualize that. It is the only way to fast track and and dude,
Yeah.
really put turbo boosters on success.
Yeah, it's cool because like I just keep thinking of Drake, our CPA, like he gets it. Like he understands what it's like to work with contractors, and all contractors are kind of the same, right? They're
Yeah.
like, hey, how do I buy a 4-wheeler? And he's just like, hey, here's how you do it. Here's how you plan for it. Like he understands the decisions they want to make, where
Yeah.
other CPAs are like, come on, dude, can't be doing that.
Yeah.
He gets them and understands it. And what I would also say, like, what I was just talking about, Tim, is like, that's why so many people want to be around you, right? Because you lead with value. So if you start
It's key.
going,
right?
if you start going back on that value proposition that you bring, it devalues your brand,
Yeah.
right? So like that's why your mastermind has grown so well,
Yeah, because they see it as a giver, right?
Yeah.
Instead of a taker. And I think a lot of people, they try to just get the sales going, but the reality is you can't withdraw from a bank account unless you've made deposits into that bank account.
Yep.
Right? You need to make deposits into your audience. You need to make deposits into your followers. You need to make deposits into your social media friends before you can ever make withdrawals, right?
Yep.
And just lead with example. And if you lead with so much value, when it comes time to ask for something, they're like, fuck, this guy's giving me so much. I got to buy something, right? Or I got to contribute something, or I got to give him, at least share his concepts, or I got to share his social media, share the video, you give, that they almost feel obligated, right? I know that's how I feel, because when there's other people who have poured into me and they don't even know it, and all of a sudden they ask for something, like, dude, let me make a donation to that cause just because, he's a rock star. He's asking me to help out and pay it forward to somebody. Dude, I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
No, I think, and you have to maintain consistency, right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, understand the value that you do bring.
Yep.
And don't ever sell yourself short from that. Or let people take advantage of you. And I'm not saying you do or I do. I'm just, there comes a point where, well, why don't you just do it for free? If it's so valuable, because here's the thing, dude. If you don't pay attention.
100%, man. I say
and they're like,
every
you're
time.
just saying that to line your pockets. No, I'm not. Like, you legitimately, I've offered free tickets to friends, investors,
Done it so many times.
who
They
have
don't show up.
to come out to my Legacy Summit, right?
Yeah.
And you know how many of them fucking take me up on it?
Yeah.
Less than 5%.
Yeah.
I might offer 20 tickets, one person will come.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're people who have sold their business for 9 figures. They're people who I've been best friends with since high school or college.
Yeah.
And I'll offer free access to come out to an event that everybody else pays $15,000 a year for, right?
Yeah.
And they don't show. They
Yeah.
don't come. Because if you don't pay attention, dude. You gotta charge somebody something. And dude, it's not necessary. I don't need the money, right? I do it because you won't show up if you don't pay something, right? And so you got to do that. All right, going back to businesses.
Yeah.
The ideal business for you is zero, or doing up to $1 million in revenue, and then you take it to a few million in revenue, and then you exit it.
Yeah.
Why not bigger? Why not go into $1 million to $10 million business, and then drive it up to $20, $30, $40 million, and then sell it, exit it?
Yep. I mean, the reason is just because I've never done it before, right? So that's the goal, to work toward that at some point. And I'll get there eventually, but I just haven't done it yet.
So it's not because there's too much competition.
No.
It's not because the big boys play in that pond and you get eaten up like a little fish.
No, there's probably less competition in those big businesses.
Really?
I mean, I would think so.
Because in apartment buildings, there's kind of a sweet spot, right? The single family stuff, everybody can wrap their head around single family because they watch HGTV.
Yeah.
I can go buy a house, I can go buy a rental, I can go flip a house. That's easy for people, even up to 4, 5, 6 units, right?
Yeah.
People can conceptualize. But once you get into 20 units, that's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Right? Let me step back, let's pump the brakes, let me play it safe, let me grow organically, let me build it up slowly. Harder for the small investors to wrap their head around. At the same time, when you get up to 100 doors and bigger, you might own a couple dozen apartments. You find you find a 100 or 200 unit apartment building. You're like, dude, I'm going to go make an offer on this. Yeah. You get into that size, you're going up against guys like me who have big portfolios. Yeah. Right? Can write some big checks, can maybe overpay because I know how to. I have systems in place. I have scale in place, right? And it's very difficult to get into those because now you're talking with hedge fund money, real estate trusts, people who have made a bunch of money in cryptocurrency and they're looking to deploy big cash. it's a much more competitive space
Yeah.
when you get into those bigger, especially A-class type things.
Yeah.
But there's this sweet spot, man. There's a sweet spot between probably $1 million to $10 million,
Yeah.
$1 million to $5 million apartment buildings,
Yeah.
where 20 units to 70 units, right? If you're in that ballpark, it's bigger than the small investors can,
Yeah.
buy. It's too small for the big investors. And really, if you can perform in there, you can build up. That's how I built up my portfolio. Was essentially 10-unit buildings up to 70-unit buildings.
Yeah.
And that was the first, 600 doors that I bought. And then I had the portfolio built up to go and buy another 600, 700 doors in one transaction.
Yeah.
Double my and then all of a sudden, I can go and play with the big fish.
Yeah,
Is it similar to that in the business bid? In the flipping of businesses and rolling up companies?
In local service businesses, like we've been talking about contractors, right? The scale just doesn't exist because if you look at like some markets, I know in State College where I started my cleaning business, the total cleaning market was like $25 million.
How do you know that?
Through sales data. You can go on like Sales Genie and you can look at, and I basically just looked at every cleaning company in town and I totaled up their revenue. It's not gonna be perfect, but
interesting.
It'll be close. So I'm looking at like, dude, even if you owned 100% of the market, it's only $25 million, right? It's a smaller market. So the scale just doesn't really exist there because you're limited to a local market. The only way you can really do that is to own multiple branches around. And at that point, you're going to be like a Stanley Steamer or, Service Master where you're a franchise at that point. So I think the scale does exist because I know other people have done it. For example, on the way to your mastermind in Franklin, North Carolina, we stopped and got lunch at Taco Bell. And talking to the general manager there, he was telling me like how much money they make in revenue. And he's like, yeah, dude, this place makes like, I want to say it was like $200K. Yeah, it was $200K a month. So that business is making like $2.5 million a year, right?
Yep.
And he's like, and the guy who owns this one, and don't quote me on any of this, but he's like, the guy who owns this one owns, 5 other restaurants. So I started thinking like, man, dude, this is a turnkey business. The profit margins are there. Like, why doesn't like somebody just own 6, 7 of these things? You make a lot of money, right? The reason is because like it's so hard to get into those. It takes a lot of capital to get into those. So that's where I think the barrier to entry is for those types of businesses. It does require more capital and more business knowledge and all that kind of stuff.
Once you're in that world, though, dude, you just start printing money and you just buy another franchise, buy another franchise, buy another franchise. Who's the dude on The Blind Side? He had like 70 Taco Bell restaurants or something like that, right? And I knew a guy who had, I want to say it was like 20 or 25 McDonald's, and then he had some Taco Bells and stuff too. Maybe it was one. But anyway, yeah. So like, why not create your own Stanley Steamers or Mr. Electric or Mr. Plumber or something along those lines, like a service business that is, contracted. You could probably go and find somebody who's got a little plumbing business and say, hey, let me come in, let me handle the marketing, let me handle the back office stuff, let me handle all these things, let me bring in the lead gen, hand it off to you. All you have to do is go out and service this stuff and kick me a dividend of 7%, 10%, 15%, whatever it is, royalty probably per year or per transaction. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can definitely do it. It's something I would like to do because I know how to do all this stuff, so we've talked about doing that. We have like a little investment group within our mastermind where we're always looking for companies that, want to sell or scale, and we take equity positions in. But it would be interesting to do something like that. I actually looked at franchising my cleaning business model, and like I said, it was just really cumbersome. So that's why I didn't want to do it. And I didn't really want to have to talk out of both sides of my mouth, right? Like I want ownership in companies, but then with ownership, with great power comes great responsibility, right? So it's like I didn't necessarily want ownership in 10 of those companies because then it was like, now I'm tied down to this and this isn't really what I wanted to do. So that's really the reason I haven't done it.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. So what have you found in the bigger businesses? Do you think you can source them the same way? Do you think they're as motivated? Do you think they're a little bit...
No.
Probably not?
No, they're not as motivated because a lot of them are absentee owners or they're not working as much. They're definitely out there, but just think like a person that's doing a couple $100,000 in revenue, it's just a dumpster fire. They're just tired.
Yeah.
What the skills that it takes to do that versus the skills that it takes to run a $5 million company, it's just different.
Yeah.
It's fewer and farther between.
Yeah.
But you can get, Where I will say is you can find companies that get into unique personal situations where they're like, look, dude, this company's printing money, it's doing really well, but like my mom is sick and I've got to go take care of her and she lives in California, like I need to be out of here. You know, like I think you could find those deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man. Now I think I've seen people buy this same business, same industry, right? Two different businesses, two cleaning companies, let's call it, in the same town, and never rebranded them under the same umbrella. Yeah. They brought all the overhead together, right? And they all the back office stuff together, but maintained two different businesses. Yeah. And then they go out and run a quote under this name, and then they run a quote under this name, but it's the same company, right? Same essential service. Yeah. And dude, it creates.
That'd be interesting, man.
It's fascinating. Yeah. You know, it's a fascinating marketing play where, oh, okay, well, it kind of makes some sense, right? Like, what if I went and made an offer in my name on an apartment building, and then I had my COO make an offer on the same apartment building, like lowballing it, made my offer look better.
Yeah, right.
Like, you can do that. Is it right? Is it legal? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it, does it fall under all those categories?
So I do know if you're talking about any like big bid that you're going to be doing, especially like a local, like a government bid, or like you're not allowed to collude on that, and that would be technically colluding if you knew what the other person was bidding. So
yeah, that's I wonder what the fine line is with that. Have you ever gotten into government work?
Yeah, tons of it. Yeah, so our business was where Penn State was. So we would do like post-construction cleanings, and we've cleaned big buildings and stuff.
What is that like bidding on those projects?
It's a lot more paperwork, I can tell you that, but there's less competition because of the insurances that are required and the professionalism that's required and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, those are the jobs I'd be going after.
Well, you're going toe-to-toe against people who are just as professional as you are, right?
Sometimes,
so there's a lot less competition, but the competition is higher quality, right?
Yeah, but you're all competing on the same level of playing field.
How do you get into those government contracts?
Send them a message, like find their email and introduce yourself and get in there. That's what I said. It's the best form of marketing for these businesses.
So isn't there like a database that shows all the different jobs, and then you click on submit a bid or something for this different job, and they say, hey, here's all the qualifications you need before you can even submit a bid, and then you go through that process.
Yeah. So we talked about leading with value, right?
But dude, you're a white guy, right? Like, how do you win any of these bids? And you don't have a military background either, right? Yeah.
No,
so dude,
none of them.
3 strikes against you, man.
Yeah. So it doesn't always come down to price, right? Like they all vote in a board of directors or whatever. Sometimes contracts come down to price, and it's that simple, right? But you want to lead with value. You want to email that person and say, hey, I just want to get on your preferred vendors list. You're not even asking for the sale. You just want to let them know when the time comes. And then when they get an RFP, request for a proposal, your name comes up, and the more bids that you put in, and maybe you don't get the first 5 bids, but here's the thing is, like, if you operate in an abundant mindset, even the good companies are going to get to a point where they're so flooded with work that they can't even put bids in.
Dude, I see the government contractor. I got a couple buddies who do all government contract work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, they live in some of the biggest houses, right? Like the nicest houses. They drive the nicest cars. I was like, there's some money in this shit, right? Like there's some margin in there. And no smarter than you or me or anybody watching this, right? But they went after bigger deals, right? They went after the bigger contracts. And all of a sudden, man, they started landing them, right? And there was bigger margin in them. They obviously showed up. They obviously performed.
Yeah.
But I think there's something to be said about going after those bigger contracts.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's the same thing with real estate, right? Everyone has buying criteria. And so there's some government contracts that are like, look, we're 7 days a week. We need this maintained. And you might say, look, like, it's just one of our things. We don't work on Sundays. Like, I don't even want this job. And a lot of times they'll put a bid in for it, and they'll put the bid super high because they don't even want it. But that makes your bid look even better, right?
Yeah.
So we see that happen all the time.
You don't see the other bids, right? It's all closed bid.
It depends. Like sometimes we did a bid for 3 fire stations in the area, and as a part of their bidding process, where after you got it, you can see what the other person bid. So, and I tell people all the time, look, like if people are going to constantly lowball, just let them get flooded with all the lowball work.
Yeah.
And let them take that, and then you swoop in, you get all the high profit work.
Dude, it's not worth, like, competing on price is not worth it.
Yeah.
It's unless you have something extremely scalable, there's no reason. Then you look like the cheap person, right? The cheap person who's probably not going to perform,
Yeah.
but it's so cheap that they're going to go with you, expecting you to fail or fall short,
Yeah.
right? And then or they're gonna start jacking up, a bunch of changes in the scope of work,
Yep.
right? A bunch of change orders and a bunch of
If they know you're a pushover and you're going to push on price, then they're going to be like, hey, I need you to do this. Hey, I need you to do
Yeah.
that. They know that you need them.
I did that in my
Yeah.
painting company, dude, and
Yeah.
I got totally abused by
Yeah.
it the first year. And so I was like, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm tired of paying my dues. I'm fucking worth more than this.
Yeah.
I don't want those contracts. They'll get spun out or burned out anyways,
I think it's funny, and I don't recommend people doing this, but it's like a meme in the service business world. It's like the customer asks for a breakdown of the price and costs and all that, and it's like, cost to do the job is $7,500. Cost for us not to do the job is $0.
yeah, exactly.
You just tell people hey, look, this is the price, this is what it is, this is the value we bring,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna have you beating me up over. They want to see how much is going into labor, how much is going into material. It's like, listen, dude, here's the cost of the job. You know,
yeah. Here's what it is, man.
Yeah.
Is it worth that to you or is it not worth that to
Yeah.
you? It's no problem. Yeah, it doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
I don't need to be here. I might especially right now, man. The whole service industry is getting clobbered with work and opportunity,
Yeah.
and there's so much demand for it that you don't need to,
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't want to abuse it, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to raise money right now in real estate.
Yep.
I could go to all my investors and be like, "Yeah, I used to pay you 12 to 15%,
Yep.
and now I'm going to pay you 6."
Yep.
Right? No, dude, I'm still paying my investors 10, 12, 15% on their money because I know that times will change. I know that the market will pivot. It's going to be harder to come by money
Yep.
as soon as things cycle through. When's that going to be? 2 years from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now? I don't know, 6 months from now? Who knows?
Yeah.
But it will cycle. And what you don't want to do is abuse those relationships. So that way they're going to be like, screw you, dude, I'm going to go do this on my own.
Yep.
No, you took care of them, you built up the loyalty the whole time. And you got to do that in the service business too. You got to make sure you're taking care of people, not abusing it, not overcharging,
Yep.
but making sure you're getting paid.
Yep.
And passing along a lot of these increasing costs has to get passed along to the end consumer.
Yep.
And I think most people are understanding that, right? Prices across everything is going up.
Yeah. It's who do you want to be, right? Are you in this for the next 5 years, or are you in this for the next 50 years?
Yeah.
I like to operate like I'm going to be doing this for 50 years. I don't want people to ever say, oh man, back in 2020, Mike did this to me. I want to operate like everything's on the line for the rest of my life, So I like to take care of people, and it's worked out so far.
So have you ever looked at what does it take to sell a company to a real estate trust or anything along those lines?
No.
Not a real estate trust. I mean a hedge fund or a big buyer.
No.
I would think they're probably. I don't know, but I would think they play at minimum 10 million or more.
Yeah, it's got to
know?
be so turnkey, man.
Yeah.
The owner's got to show that they've been completely absent in it, and that they don't have to replace that person's salary.
What kind of default rate do you get when you're selling the business to either employees or finding another? I'm sure you call up the other service providers in that industry in that town.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, you want to buy my company?
Yeah. Yeah, so you're talking about
What kind of default
rate.
when you sell or finance it?
Yeah.
The business on the sell
It
side.
just depends, right?
How many of those businesses are you taking back? You sold 10 of them.
None.
None?
Yeah, none.
You're not having
Yeah.
any default, huh?
No, because you got to find the right people that want to stick with it, and you want to keep your terms short, right? You don't want to do a seller finance deal over the next 10 years. You're looking at 2 to 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And from their perspective,
And then what do they do? Then they have to cash you out by going and getting a bank loan?
no, they should be able to cash flow from the business to pay for it
Enough cash flow to write the entire check.
over 2 to 3 years.
Really?
Yeah, and
So all right, so
Yeah.
let me understand this.
Yep.
So you take a company that's doing 250, you take it to $1 million, you sell it for $1 million. You have a note that you probably get $200,000 down or something like that. It kind of pays off your initial investment
Yep.
that you bought it for. So whoever the seller was that you bought it from is now out of the way. Now you're the only one there. You got an $800,000 note on this thing at what, 4%, 5%,
Yeah.
somewhere in that.
5%.
Yeah, like a bank loan, right?
Yep.
And essentially, you amortize that over 3 years.
Yep.
So you're getting enough payments where you're getting paid down $270,000 per year for 3 years, and then you're paid off in
Exactly.
full. Oh, okay.
Because as a person
love
buying,
that.
person buying a company, you should be able to get your money back. Like if I'm going to buy a company, I want to get my money back within 12 to 18 months. So like if the person buying the company can't realistically,
that's a 1x multiple that you're buying at.
pretty much 1 to 2x.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you're going to sell or finance, 2, maybe 3 years, right? It's like the max you want to do, because they should be able to take the cash flow from the business to pay you back, and you have to show them that there's enough cash there to pay you back.
Are you? Do you ever have to bring in investors and structure it with investors for the down payment or anything like that?
Yeah, and usually it's like friends and family.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and most of the time these down payments aren't anything crazy. It's enough to cover if everything hit the fan, right? Like if there's notes on the vehicles or equipment or whatever, like you just want to get that out of it, so that way something happens, the person leaves town or whatever, you can pay off all that. And a lot of times to turn over the business, you've got to pay off the liens so you can retitle and all that kind of stuff. But really, like what it comes down to with buying businesses is you're buying the assets, which most of the time is going to be equipment and vehicles, and then what we call blue sky, which is the website, the trade name, the employees, and you assign a value to that, and then you say, look, this is what the company is worth.
Love it. How do you have the conversation with somebody? Like, do they think it's worth more or less?
They always think it's worth more.
Yeah.
They always think it's worth more.
Yeah.
And that's when you just show them, like, look, dude, as an investor, I've got to get my money back in this amount of time. Like, how can I justify it with what you're doing? And a lot of times they're not running clean books, and they're like, well,
Taking some cash off the side, not claiming everything.
Yeah, it's like, well, then, I mean,
paying people under the table.
I don't even want to buy it then, dude.
Yeah,
and
too dirty, too messy.
Yeah, and so if you're watching this and you're thinking of buying a business, the best way to do it is to do an asset sale. You create your own LLC and you buy the assets. You buy the trucks, you buy the trade name, you essentially buy the systems and the team, and you do an asset sale.
You're not buying their LLC because you're buying their liabilities.
Correct.
If that's the case.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys, like, you don't know if they didn't file taxes, you don't know if they didn't pay sales tax.
Yeah, you don't want their EIN or anything like that.
Yeah, you create your own, you buy the stuff from them, and then you do a DBA, doing business as, and that limits your liability.
Love that. Love it, dude. No, that's good stuff, man. So what is the next, coming down the pipe here, what is the next 12 to 24 months look like for you? Like, where are you taking your business? What do you want to do? What do you want to accomplish? I know you're looking to get in commercial real estate, some other stuff like that too, right?
Yep. So the biggest thing that I'm looking to grow is our mastermind group. And I've kind of leveled up to where I'm focused a lot more on the top level people, the people that are, want to take their business to 7 figures or multiple 6 figures to 7 figures, right? And then
now this is for people who don't necessarily own a business yet, right?
Yeah.
But want to.
Yeah.
And then it's also for people who own a service business that want to scale it up, right? And provide that support. Like, how do you bring on executive level intelligence and insights without having to take on that type of salary? How much is your mastermind?
It's $12K. So it's $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, and then we do retreats and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The first one is a few $100s a month. So that's the people that like...
So you do an entry-level one.
Exactly, right? And that was, some of the advice I got from coming to the mastermind group, right? And so we put our team together. Drake helps me run that group. We've got a couple other people. And that's for the people that are like either don't have a business or maybe they're doing 10K a month and they're like, I want to get to 20K, right?
Yeah.
Like, do that. That's step 1. And then step 2 is to join our high-level mastermind. And my goal would be to get 30 people into the high-level mastermind, and I want 100 people in the lower-ticket mastermind.
In the next 12 months.
Yep. And then the other thing is like take some more equity positions in companies, but that's where it's like the phrase, right? Like slow to hire, quick to fire.
Yep.
I like to be very slow and methodical, and if I'm going to invest in a company, got to make sure it's somebody that I've had a relationship with, I can trust them, and for those of you guys that want to do deals, like the best way to do that's get in the mastermind, right?
Yeah.
Like join the group.
And that's a qualifier for everybody, for you wanting to get involved in deals, right?
Yeah.
People bring me deals all the time. Hey, will you joint venture with me? Dude, no. If you're not willing to invest in yourself and get educated on this shit, why would I ever want to invest in your deal and let you fumble around and then my team have to pick up all the pieces? Like, dude, not interested. If you're not part of the mastermind, dude, I'm not joint venturing on a deal with you.
Yeah.
I'll buy it from you, but I'm not going to JV or partner up unless you're part of the group, and I know you're getting the right insights, the right mindset, the right resources, the right philosophies, right?
Yeah.
And you're bringing that to the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with your business, man. Like, that's a qualifier for people. If you want me to partner up with you and JV on deals, JV on businesses, then you got to be part of the mastermind. So that way I know you're serious and you're showing up every single week, getting, educated and making a commitment to this thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a standard. So that's good, man. Is there a specific number of businesses you want to get involved in the next 12 months, or is there a specific revenue target that you have?
Yeah. So for revenue target, I would like the coaching company to bring in $500,000, and then I would like to take equity in 5 companies this year. So, and that could be between real estate and local businesses.
Yeah.
So
5 different companies.
Yeah.
In doing how much in revenue?
Those companies each.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to justify, or it's hard to quantify that because it depends on where they're starting at. You know what I mean? But pretty much the companies we're looking at acquiring are companies doing less than $500,000 in revenue, because we know we can add so much value to them, we can also get into them for a good price.
And what does it look like when you come into an equity position in those deals?
Yeah.
Are you buying out the whole thing, or you're just buying out a percentage of it?
We are gonna always be less than 50%.
Less than 50, but it's probably over 20 or 25 in order to make it justify even your time, right?
Exactly.
But giving them 51% or something gives them the comfortability of I'm still the decision maker. But obviously there's paperwork and stuff that says they're not operating in a fiduciary capacity or doing the right thing for the business or looking out for, or they lie, cheat, steal. Then it creates a lot of liability for you and your investors and your partners and everybody else, where you don't want that, so you'll be able to step in.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm looking at the real estate as the long-term wealth building tool, right? Like, I'm not looking.
Are you looking to actively acquire and operate, or are you looking to just passively invest?
Well, it's something we need to talk about, right? Like, you don't know what you don't know, and so that's why I joined the mastermind, is to figure out what's the best strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, initially it would be to be more active in the properties and learn the process and all that kind of stuff.
Depends on where your goals are, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had people who. I got a friend who makes $15 million a year net on their e-commerce business. And her and her husband, they just crank out cash, and they realize that's their lane, right?
Yeah.
She tried to get in and to operate real estate on it. She's like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And she's like, let me get back in my lane, print money over here, passively invest. They can write big checks. So because they can write a bigger check, I can give them more preferential terms because they can fund an entire deal. I don't have to go out and raise, $100,000 from 20 different people.
Yeah.
I can raise $2 million just from her, and then I can give her preferential terms because I don't have to go and communicate and take a bunch of time and effort in order to communicate with 20 different investors and look over paperwork and all that stuff, right? So now it makes more sense for her to just print more money and passively invest, right? I've had other people who sold their business for 9 figures and I want to be all in on real estate, and they want to go and operate in real estate, right? So they get into operating real estate, but they don't realize it's a new business, dude.
It's a lot, yeah.
Guess what? Just like it takes you 5 years to turn your business, become an expert in that business, it takes 3 to 5 years to become an expert in real estate, minimum. I was shitty for 7 years before I really started getting good at it. So there's one, I sold his business for $750 million.
Jeez.
750, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know what his take on it was. I think at least a couple $100 million. He had a good chunk of equity. And I think they had a little bit of debt, whatever. Let's say he made $200 million. He invested a few $1 million with me passively, and then he came out to Commercial Empire, and he was like, shit, I could do this, right? Hey. Goes, finds somebody, partners up with them. This guy's like the local partner. Hey, we're closing on this deal. The bank loan's not ready. They're not willing to extend the loan or extend the contract. I need you to buy it cash.
Yeah.
He does that with 4 different deals over the span of 6 months, and ends up putting $20 million into these different deals.
Yeah.
That local partner drove them all into the ground, took all the renovation funds, put them in his pocket, $3 million worth, and rolled out of the country. He comes to me, Tim, what do I do? You made it look too easy.
Yeah, you're in a tough spot, man.
Hey, all right, man, well, here's what it looks like. Here's exactly what I would do. Here's all the resources. Here's all the connections. I helped him out big time, connected him with a whole bunch of people that could help him get out of that situation. But the reality is it's a new business.
Yep.
coming from what you know, jumping into something new,
Yeah.
there's going to be learning curves.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who try to take advantage of you. There's going to be, hurdles that you face,
Yeah.
glass ceilings you got to break through. There's a bunch of shit that happens
Yeah.
when you do that. So to me, if I'm humming along and I'm flipping businesses and I'm selling, let's say you're flipping one business. How many businesses do you flip per year?
Yeah.
Or every other?
Yeah.
One business every other year, or like?
Yeah, I mean, that's historically what it's been.
Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, I would hope that we're going to be doing 5 to 10 a year.
You're dialing it up now,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And so I got to believe, I think you're going to do, let's say, 2 businesses that you can flip out of every year,
Yeah.
make at least $500,000 to $1 million per business,
Yeah.
right? And let's say you're bringing in $1 million, dude. You can take that money,
Yeah.
put $500,000, like for where we live, man. Like you're not in Charleston. Actually, Charleston's not even that bad, but you're in a beautiful, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And you can live like a king on a few $100,000, right?
Yeah.
So, dude, take the rest of it, pour it in as passive investor,
Yeah.
get some equity positions, get a fixed, predictable return on your income, or on your revenue, or on your investment. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then keep on cycling that money.
Yeah.
$500,000 every single year, and all of a sudden you got $5 million in play over the next 10 years, making 10%, making another $500,000 a year
Yeah.
on top of equity, right? That's kicking off cash flow and depreciation. That's
Yeah.
offsetting a lot of your gains on the businesses that you're flipping. Dude, I just think that's a smart move until you get to a point where you're like, okay, now my passive income exceeds what my active flipping of businesses income is.
Yeah.
And now I can go full-time into real estate,
Yeah.
right? I've seen too many people jump into real estate and then get clobbered because they think it's like, hey,
It's
I want to
sexy.
open a coffee shop,
Yeah.
right? Fuck, it's different drinking coffee in a coffee shop
Yeah.
than actually owning a coffee shop.
Yeah, I agree.
And so real estate's the same thing. Oh, I drive by buildings every day. I could just own one.
Yeah.
It's not that easy,
Yeah.
So in my perspective, I would much rather see you passively invest in some deals with some
Yeah.
people that you know, that people that you trust, people that have experience
Yeah.
in doing deals. So that way your money's safe. You don't have to think about it. You can go back to just making money
Yeah.
in your traditional business. And then it gets to a point where, hey, now this is humming along, fully automated. I do want to get into, the next business that I'm going to flip is going to
Yeah.
be a real estate commercial investment business,
Yeah.
Or you have a joint venture partner, an operating partner that is just dialed in, going full time.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's cool like having these conversations because, you come on and it's like, you don't realize how much you know until you start teaching everyone. And it's like, man, I think I do know a lot about these types of businesses, right? And it's taken me 5-6 years to get that knowledge.
Yeah.
And so it's like all I did for years is to learn about how to do this
Yeah.
stuff.
Dude, I just think a lot of people, and entrepreneurs like us, man, I remember sitting in a conference and I saw the guy who started Starbucks.
Yep.
Okay, he started the first Starbucks. Maybe he came into the first one, came into the second one. Took it up to like 10, 13 stores, and then corporate came in and bought the whole thing, and he got cashed out. So he's not part of Starbucks today. He's not a billionaire or anything like that.
Yep.
He made a couple $1 million, and he was speaking at a local university up in Cleveland at Case.
Yep.
And I go to see this guy talk, and he said something that made no sense to me at the time, but makes total sense to me right now, is that he goes, I'm not the corporate entrepreneur.
Yep.
I'm the startup guy. As soon as it gets corporate, I want out. I want nothing to do with it.
Yep.
I was like, well, dude, that's like, start making money. But like, there's a level of excitement that is lost when it starts getting corporate to guys like you and me, probably.
Yeah.
And there's a level of excitement in that startup phase.
Yep.
In the, dude, let's go and build something from almost nothing and make it super fucking cool.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
And then exactly, dude. I'm the
Yeah.
same way. That's why I've gotten into the island.
Yeah.
That's why I bought the mountain house. That's why I have like a couple of these like high-end Airbnb, short-term rental event type spaces, because I needed something more exciting, but I wanted it to be in line with what we were already doing.
That's a good point.
Because the blue collar apartment buildings are just fucking boring to me now.
Yeah.
But it's printing the most money because we're so dialed in on it.
Yeah.
And I see so many people get to that phase where they're like, oh my God, now it's making money, but yeah, it's boring as shit. And then they want to get out of it.
Yeah.
And like, dude, that's when you should put your head down and double down, because that's when you print cash.
Yeah.
But what I've done is we keep buying the blue collar apartment buildings. We'll hand that off to my team. I got the whole team in place. I personally could go and jump into some of these other like kind of pet projects, but they're still involved in real estate. And then I can passively invest in some e-commerce stuff. I can passively invest in some, prop tech companies. I can look at some of the software businesses that we want to start up, because it's all vertically integrated and aligned, and that gives me the excitement to go and do those new startup things. But it's like, I love the space that you're in, man. You can create a lot more revenue than I can, I think, on an annual basis, or in a shorter amount of time. But I love the idea of you taking that money and putting it into real estate, because that's what's going to create long-term wealth. So I think just doing the same, doing the two, but realizing I'm going to go full-time in this, what I'm really good at, the knowledge that you've gained over a decade, 15 years of doing this stuff, and then take your cash. Find people, like there's so many people in our mastermind that that you can deploy capital with and get a great return, know that it's safe, know that it's stable, and then get an equity position in that. Like that's where I would be, man.
Yeah, I agree.
So, well, dude, this has been an awesome conversation. So much so that we went an hour and a half and went 2 parts, right? And so it'll be a 2-part series that we'll release over the next couple of weeks here. And dude, just tons and tons of value. So appreciate you being here, brother. You. Always fun catching up and chatting. We got to do this more often since we're only an hour away from each other.
That's right. Yeah, I love it.
All right, buddy.
Thanks for having me on.
To a big year.
Yeah, cheers.
Take care.
Legacy.
All right, I hope you guys got a ton of value out of that. It's always been something interesting to me to see the parallels between real estate and other businesses, and seeing how the business stuff, right? The operations, the human resources, the processes, the sales, the marketing, the financing, the funding, the finance, the accounting, the booking, all of that stuff transcends industry. It's all about, it doesn't matter if you're selling widgets, if you're swinging a hammer, no matter what your asset class is, no matter what your industry is, all that stuff can be transcended based on the business elements of running and operating a business. So despite what kind of business you're in and how you're out there generating revenue and making money and putting food on the table for your family, hopefully you got a ton of value from this and you can implement this information into your business as well. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you got some good value out of this, please leave a comment. Give me what your biggest takeaway was. Please share this with other people who would get a ton of value out of this too. It's the reason we do this, is to make sure that we're kind of paying it forward and trying to help people out, not only with their business, but also with their finances and also with their lives. So anything that you could do to share this, I'd hugely appreciate it. But leave me a comment, give me a like, give me a subscription, hit the notifications bell so you can get notified of future Spill the Beans episodes. So until next time, I'll see you on Spill the Beans.